We have a great topic today, but just real quick, I want to say how surreal it is because I live in Los Angeles, California. So today I looked out my window and it is a completely orange sky. And what a strange experience it is to be in 2020 under a apocalyptic orange sky in the middle of a pandemic, having just heard new tapes on how the President of the United States lied to the American people. It's just a very, very strange and surreal experience to be living in this moment right now with all of these different things happening simultaneously. It is indeed clear that we are going through this period of change and transition, and everything is crumbling away, and it's exciting and interesting and very surreal to be in this moment, in this time that is absolutely going to be looked back at in history. So just a little interesting anecdote from my apocalyptic experience in Los Angeles, California today. But however, we have a really good topic today. We're discussing reincarnation. How many past lives have you had? I mean, how many times have you incarnated? How many times does it take? Why do you keep incarnating? All of these are extremely important topics, and we're going to explore them because you're going to hear a lot of bullshit from New Age gurus and Eastern philosophy that actually ties you more to the material world rather than liberating you. So one of the things that's critical to understand about understanding the reincarnation process is that it has a purpose. There's a reason for it. And a lot of gurus and a lot of philosophies can't produce a real reason for it. I mean, they give some reasons having to do with karma and whatnot, but we're going to see there is in fact a precise reason for it. And we need to understand these elements to know what the reincarnation process is all about and why you incarnate, and if what's going on. Because the whole thing here is that you have to know why you're here, what you are, and where you are, right? You have to know these three things: what you are, where you are, and why you're here. Because you can't begin to explore the answers to these other questions, such as reincarnation, until you really answer these foundational questions, right? We have to start at the beginning. We have to start at the bedrock to be able to further extrapolate and see what all this means and why we are engaged in these cycles of incarnations. So you have to know what existence is, you have to know what you are, and you have to know why you are here to be able to understand the incarnation process. And I wanted to do this topic today because I've been getting a lot of questions from people asking me, how many times they've incarnated, how many times do they need to, and this is something that I feel like really needs to be cleared up, because as we're going to see, it's not so much quantity, but rather quality, right? It's not so many, how many times a person has incarnated, but rather what they have done with the times that they have incarnated. So we're going to answer these questions and look at these very foundational features and ground this in ontology to really understand and break all of this down. And I also have a comment, all right? So I posted, that we're going to be going live today and talking about this, and I got a comment from a hater, and I'm going to read to you the comment and show you precisely why people have such a backwards idea with reincarnation. So we're going to take a look at this comment, and I think once again it really illustrates precisely, you'll see, all right? We're going to take a look at this comment and examine it. So I want to point out this comment that I got because I think it really pertains to, like I said, this comment came from when I posted our topic today, and this person said, reincarnation isn't proved scientifically, and such a belief undermines the seriousness of life. To sum up, if one believes in reincarnation and this life is miserable, why not do a reset button and start another life? There is one life, appreciate it, and spread love and understanding. Okay, so here's the thing. First, there's so much wrong with this comment, and this is why I want to dissect it. First of all, reincarnation isn't proved scientifically. You have no idea what we're about because we reject scientific materialism and empiricism. We are rationalists and idealists, and because of this, we can prove reincarnation mathematically. We don't need scientific empiricism, which can never reach a non-empirical reality. The domain of mind is a non-empirical reality, so empirical methods can never reach a non-empirical reality. However, mathematical methods absolutely can, because mathematics is a system of reason. So how do we know the reincarnation process? So how do we know that reincarnation exists? Well, just let me put it to you like this. We can show that, using reason and mathematics, that this is a reality of mind. That mind, which is mathematics, is fundamental, and that is all that necessarily exists. All material reality is contingent, right? It is temporary, whereas mind is true and eternal. So what existence is mind and eternal. So ipso facto, the death of the body, the passing away of matter, is something that happens that has no effect on you as a mind, dealing with your existence, rather. So we know that we exist because, mathematically speaking, all there is mind, and existence is necessary. We can never not exist. So the passing of the body does not mean that you will no longer exist, because non-existence is impossible, right? So existence will always continue. To sum up, if one believes in reincarnation and this life is miserable, we have never said that life in general is miserable. Life on Earth is not great right now because of how the world has set up its institutions. Humanity has collectively chosen to have a miserable existence, but the whole point of Hyperianism is that we can change it. We can transform this world into something better. That's the whole point. And so, once again, don't put words in our mouths. Yes, this life as it currently exists is not great, but we have the power to transform it. Why not do a reset button and start another life? Because that's not going to do anything. This person's talking about suicide. We're completely against suicide because we are here to change the world and change ourselves. Suicide it's like restarting a video game. You're never going to make progress. You're just going to keep going back and back. So there is one life, appreciate it, and spread love and understanding. Okay, now this is, here's the thing, if you believe that there is only one life and materialism is all that there is, your only options are existentialism, nihilism, or hedonism. Hedonism is that just life is all about pleasure. Nihilism is that life has no meaning. And existentialism is basically just like you kind of make it up or invent a meaning, which means that you're sort of lying to yourself in a certain sense. However, so these are not great options. Please take your nihilism and hedonism somewhere else. Life is about self-actualization and collective actualization. So as you can see, Hyperianism and ontological mathematics and its element of reincarnation doesn't make life meaningless. It is all about meaning. It is all about meaning, whereas materialism is what strips meaning from life. Materialism is a nihilistic philosophy. Hyperianism is a teleological philosophy which is imbued with meaning. Life is meaning. Life is purpose. Life is about self-actualization and collective actualization. So that's just a really important thing to understand, and I wanted to address this as we go forward to see once again why people's view on this is so skewed and why belief in materialism, faith in matter, is a stripping of meaning from life and leads to nihilism and or hedonism. So the question of how many lives have you lived? Well, first we have to answer the question of why you don't remember your past lives. Now, I did a whole video on this, so I'm going to just say it in a nutshell. The reason that you don't remember your past lives is because the brain and nervous system act as a filtering mechanism. So you are a mind, a monad, an eternal mind, what you might call a soul. You would link to a body to be able to localize and interact in the physical domain of the holos. And your body, your brain and nervous system acts as a filtering mechanism. So you filter out unnecessary information, and you filter out things like memories of past lives. Now, real quick, why is it that you do that? That is because in the past, reality was all about survival. So evolution was all about survival. Now, evolution isn't really about survival. Evolution is really about power, the increase of power, okay? But in the early stage of evolution, the increase in power results in survival. Why? Well, because you have to be able to survive to increase your power. So in the early stage of evolution, that's why it seems like the only thing that is cared about is survival, because in order to get to the point where you're accruing power, well, you have to be able to survive. You can't accrue power. Survival is a very low form of accruing power. It's a fundamental form of accruing power. You can sort of think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Survival would be one of them. A very fundamental, foundational point. And so in the early stages of evolution, as you can imagine different creatures interacting with each other, the creatures that are focused on survival and exhibit predatory behavior in the world will survive, whereas the creatures who don't filter out information and are focused on, thinking about what the electrons on the other side of the universe are doing are going to be easily eaten and killed. So evolution will select for those avatars that filter out unnecessary data so that they can focus on survival in the material world. And this has, we've gone through so many, countless years of evolution to get to the stage that we're at now. And this, of course, we have evolutionary leftover, which means that our bodies are designed to filter out this unnecessary information. So this is why you don't remember your past lives, okay? Because it gets filtered out. That information, though, it is still there in your unconscious. And what I really want to get across is that even though you don't remember them consciously, it exists within your unconscious. And this is incredibly important. And still, that content affects you and your choices. So what do I mean by that? Well, look, I want you to think about just your current lifetime. In your current life, okay, you have all these memories that have become forgotten, right? You have had all these events happen to you. You've gone through a lot during this lifetime. But guess what? That's not all residing in your consciousness right now. A lot of it is preconscious and a lot of it is unconscious. However, that still affects you. All your past experiences, interactions, even though they're unconscious and you don't consciously remember them, that has all led up to who you are today, and it affects the choices that you make from day to day, right? You may, your actions are decided because of these unconscious processes. So same thing with your past lives. Even though you don't remember them explicitly, that all exists within you and guides and directs your life and contributes to who you are. So I want to stress the importance of having these past lives resulting in who you are, even though you don't necessarily remember them right now. And the important thing that I want to, really stress about this is now we can start to understand, because we're going to talk about, well, how many lives have you had? Well, the answer to that question is indeed interesting. But what we just talked about leads to why it's not really about how many lifetimes that you've had, but rather the quality of lifetimes that you have had. And I've given this example before. Imagine someone that incarnates, say 100 times, and all they do is, sit on the couch and binge Netflix. Now, I know that if you had 100 lifetimes, Netflix wouldn't exist in all those times, but you see where I'm going, okay? You sat on the couch and binge Netflix, or you sat on your, bale of hay and watched the gladiators fight, or the donkey take a shit, or whatever you do for fun in that era, right? So imagine someone, incarnating hundreds of times, but they waste it. Now imagine someone who incarnates just a handful of times, but they're working on themselves, they're exploring their unconscious, they're learning about their world, they're understanding philosophy, they're understanding the nature of reality, they're integrating all this information. They could evolve extremely rapidly, whereas someone else, will have completely wasted it. So it's, the evolution of your mind, the evolution of your soul is not dependent on the number of lifetimes, but rather the quality of lifetimes, what you have done to actualize yourself. And this is why Hyperianism is so important, because we give you the tools to actualize yourself and increase your mental evolution. By understanding what it is that we teach, you'll be able to actualize yourself infinitely faster, than some, you can learn what it might have taken someone thousands of lifetimes in just one lifetime by integrating this information. And that's why I always say, hey, if it seems like this information is hard, don't worry and don't get discouraged. It can be hard. But why is it hard? Because you're evolving at such a fast rate compared to those who just, might just sit there and binge and watch Netflix. You are integrating ontology, you're understanding where you are, what you are, and why you're here. You're working on the unconscious and making it conscious. You're doing all these things that reality is all about. And this is why we have to understand why the reincarnation process exists. The incarnation process exists, and this is what's so important. The incarnation process exists for you to actualize and grow. And it's so hard for me to even talk about all this in just one live stream. But the incarnation process is all about your self-actualization as a soul. This world exists for you to evolve and grow. And once again, in Hegelian philosophy, we've been talking about Hegel a lot lately, the mind, right, the ultimate reality, the mental reality, mind generates the realm of matter for itself to throw itself into as sort of like its training ground to explore, evolve, and grow and become God. Right? The physical world is the training ground for mind to enter into it, to evolve and become God. So the point of incarnation is to provide us with the medium through which to experience ourselves and others and to learn about the world and ourselves until we recognize ourselves reflected in the world and evolve into God. So incarnation is all about evolution, and this is why it's so important, right? When you get into these New Age philosophies and some of these, like Eastern religions and Buddhist philosophies that tell you to negate the self, right? This is what's so ironic about this is that this is going to tie you to the physical world. It's going to tie you to the material world, because if you're continuously negating the self, you're not actualizing the self. And incarnation is about learning and growing and understanding and actualizing. So as long as you keep trying to negate the self, you're going to keep incarnating because you're not fulfilling what you need to do. Think of life as a video game. Life as a video game is about leveling up and beating the different levels. But if you just keep, sitting there and go, well, you know what, I'm going to not play the game. I'm going to not play the game. I'm going to not play the game. You're never going to reach the goal of the game. You're just going to sit there on level 1 again and again and again and again and again and again and again, right? So it's all about, this is why these Eastern philosophies, and not all of them, but a lot of them that really emphasize, you need to destroy the self, actually tie you to the material world, because the incarnation process, you don't incarnate simply to self-negate. You incarnate to self-actualize. So again, it's like if you're playing a video game, you can't just sit there and do nothing, or else you'll never progress, which is the whole point of the game. And this leads me to this other, so how many times have you incarnated? How many times have you incarnated? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. You've incarnated infinitely. Infinitely. Now, why have you incarnated infinitely? Because you are eternal. You haven't had 1 past life or 2 past lives or 10 past lives or 100 past lives or 1,000 past lives or 10,000 past lives. Infinite. Because you have had infinite past lives. Because you are eternal. You are God. We are God. And God continuously incarnates. And you right now incarnate as a human, or perhaps in the past you've incarnated as a cat or a dog or what have you. But God incarnates as the universe. And we are God, so we incarnate as the universe. And then when the universe ends, God will once again incarnate into a new universe. So there are universal cycles. So even at the end of the universe, at the end of time and space, when we exist in a purely mental reality, we will then create a new universe to inhabit and explore. Because you can think of the universe as the body of God, and the death of the universe is like the death of the body. And then, but the cosmic mind, the absolute, will then generate a new body and enter into a new universe that is generated. So, as above, so below. You can kind of see here that the universe is the body of God, and God goes through the incarnation process because we are God. You see how just as when your physical avatar dies and you'll exist as a mind and then linked to a new body, when the universe dies, the cosmic mind, the absolute as us, will continue to exist, but then a new universal body will be generated for the absolute to connect to. And since we are the absolute and we are the nodes of the absolute, this will entail us connecting to various bodies throughout the universe, and this is an eternal process. So you have, again, this is a game that we are all playing together. Okay, this is what I want you guys to understand. People are so fixated on escaping. Well, look, this is a game that we play together, and it is an eternal game. It is an infinite game, and once we complete this game, we're going to continue and play a new game, because existence is mandatory. There is no way to not exist. Non-existence is an impossible state for you to take. We have always existed, and we will eternally exist, and we have incarnated an infinite number of times because we have played this game together an infinite number of times. We simply forget. Okay? So this is people are so fixated. It's about pulling back and seeing the bigger picture. This is something we've been doing for such a long time. So I know that sometimes it can seem hard and difficult, but that's why it's important to try to remember, like, hey, this is a game that we are experiencing together and playing together as sort of the cosmic mind that has created this universe as the game world for us to explore and interact together. And then we can play together and beat various levels and gain higher and higher in our actualization and evolution. But yes, ultimately we have incarnated infinitely. Remember, reality is cyclical. It's an eternal system. It's not linear. There is no beginning and end. The end is the beginning. It is a circle. Now, that doesn't mean that each universal cycle is exactly the same. It will all unfold in a different way, but the overall pattern is a cyclical pattern. It is complete, right? A linear pattern is not closed. It's not complete, right? But if you take the ends and attach them together into a cyclical pattern, we now have a closed, complete, consistent pattern. So once again, it's that reality is cyclical. And again, that doesn't mean that each universal cycle is exactly the same, but what it does mean is that the overall pattern is the same, just like sort of your lifetimes, right? So the sort of process, or days and nights, right? There's always day and night, but each day will have a different content to bring. Same thing with the universal cycles. The main thing that I want to really emphasize here is that yes, you have incarnated an infinite number of times. Now, thinking about this current universal cycle, right? Not thinking about all the different universal cycles in the past, but this current universal cycle, right? It's all about not quantity, but rather quality. So this is why, it's important to understand what reality is about, and existence is about self and collective evolution, self and collective actualization. So all these teachings that tell you that, oh, you need to negate the self are actually keeping you more tied to the material world because you aren't fulfilling what the purpose is of the material world, is which to give you a training ground in which to evolve and grow. So forget about all these, bullshit systems, all these bullshit, new age beliefs and all that teach you things that are contrary to your growth and evolution, that remove you from your divine self, but rather actualize yourself. Step into your divinity. Learn how to unlock your divine solution, because we are all mathematical entities and each one of us have a personal divine solution that we're all working on. And like I said, our system of Hyperianism and ontological mathematics will give you the tools to have you evolve at lightning speed. Again, you'll be able to integrate the information to have you evolve in someone that might take them thousands of lifetimes. You can have that information to integrate in just a single lifetime right here and right now. So, and again, don't get discouraged if it feels like it's difficult, because yes, it is. Yes, it is difficult, but that's why, someone who never works out will never get any, weight gains, but someone who trains every day, they'll get gains very, very quickly. So you see the difference here when it comes to mental evolution. It's all about quality, not necessarily quantity. So that's a huge thing to remember when it comes to your growth in your evolution, and why it's so important that we understand that reality is about your self-actualization, my self-actualization, and our collective actualization as a collective, because we are all divine beings on the path to godhood, on the path to divinity. So forget about all these bullshit teachings that take you away from divinity. Step into your divinity, and together we will step into our collective divinity.